audiences and consumers because you kind of need four. Okay, you have the first party audience. That is the one you know should be your core customer. Okay, you have the marketplace audiences, call it third party. And this could be competitive, like this brand has that consumer, I want them. But that's easy. Then you have the discovery audiences. Who should you be thinking about that isn't part of the wheelhouse of the foundation, but you probably should pursue, especially if it's like, let's say, an emerging demographic like a multicultural audience, or let's say it's Generation Alpha that you're planning for. Then you're going to have the dynamic audiences. These are the people who show up. They don't fit the persona, they don't fit the profile, but there was some emotional trigger that put them on frame and end up buying your stuff. When you start to look at that, then you go to partners, and then you have the zero party audience. So let's say 5, fully consent based, and this is what's going to make the inroads in 2024. And these are people who are hand raised and say, market to me. It's all good. You can use my information because in the Web3 area, I'll be getting checks paid on my data being sold. Then you start to go to partners and say, well, of the spectrum of the 5, what can you give us? What can you get us? And I think that starts to develop, okay, well, what kind of relationship are we going to have with you in the marketplace? Which of the 5 of those boxes can you tick? Because then I have to find the configuration of who's going to get the remainder of it, and then who has the overlap, et cetera, et cetera. Then you start getting into, okay, how are you identifying these people beyond cookie data? Are you using search intent data? Are you using in-app SDK data? Are you using behavioral data, a combination of universal ID data? What are you provisioning able to access via LiveRamp? We live in a world of where metadata is king, but no one talks about it. And the whole idea of metadata is just the intimacy of all the little bits in code that teaches something and culminate to a bigger picture. I'm also a big third-party data signal. There's no stack. I don't care if it's a DSP or a publisher that has all the inputs you need to understand. Let's think about the complexity of a human identity. Let's think about all the things a consumer will never declare. They're never going to tell you, okay? So you read it through body language, and this is why it's great that computer vision is making its way to the business. The whole idea of layering on data signals is to get back signals a consumer didn't want to declare, but because you were watching them, you now have information around them that starts to dimensionalize who they are. This is well beyond cookie capability and user session and cache data. Remember it said clear your cache? So you're at that era, right? So it's like now you start to look at it, the complexity. Then you start to look at, okay, do you have AI code on page? Because now we need deep learning, line of sight that some of the other signals can't pick up, that now deep learning can now pull into to give you more accelerated understanding of who you're doing. Once you get through that, you're like, okay, we know what the model now needs to be. It's complex, very. And there are a series of things that we need to turn on. And as an advertiser, you got to look at publisher partners who have a series of those things turned on. If they are 1 or 2 dimension, you already know that they have limited line of sight of trying to teach you about the consumer you are pursuing. If you know they have a series of variables turned on, now you know that they will be effectively robust. I think we just don't have people qualifying in a basic human psychology capacity that human beings are complex. And I need you to teach me as many things as possible about them that I can't learn through traditional means, or that I can only learn through doing ethnographies, which you can't really scale. There's no measuring stick. There's no North Star. So if you took ethnography as a North Star, then you say we need all these data layers to get as close to that as possible. We'll never be 1-to-1, but as close as possible. Now we can be taught as much as possible about who we're trying to monetize for long-term customer value.